as the weather warms up every year, there's a switching point where pellets become the unbeatable bait. Fish absolutely love them. No matter where you go, they catch fish. And in this Match Masterclass, that is exactly what we're concentrating on. How nice does it feel to be fishing with a bit of warmth on me, the sun shining, and that means, as I said, that the fish are waking up, and there is definitely points where pellets just become the switch over bait. You know, most of us have been fishing baits like maggots, bread, stuff like that for the last few months, and for me, springtime, as soon as you start getting a few warmer temperatures, you need to be starting to think about pellet fishing. But I'm not talking about hard pellet fishing where you're putting loads of bait in, trying to catch huge weights of fish. But what you are trying to do is fish soft pellet and just fish it in a way where you're just trying to entice them to eat it. So yeah, there's definitely a crossover, like I said, and if you get it right at the right time of year, it makes a huge difference to your fishing. So soft pellet fishing is what we're concentrating on, but there's quite a lot to cover in different aspects, so I'll try and break it down. Now, we've obviously just had a fish there, but I'm going to go back step now because I'm going to show you plumbing up, because it's super important. And actually you can see where I'm fishing today. It's not margin fishing, but I'm in the shallow water, and that is for a very good reason, which I'm going to explain. So I'll just show you plumbing up. So I mean, everyone has seen it before, but the reason why I've chosen here is because, like I said, it's the depth of water that's important. So if I come into the spot I'm fishing, I'm sure it's not going to ruin anything. You can see I'm plumbed up to how I normally would, the bottom of the body of my float. Okay, so that is where I'm actually fishing. Now, if I come up to where I'd be fishing in the summer, like height of summer, you can see how much shallower it is there. Now, I don't think the fish are going in that depth of water at the moment. It's a little bit clear. They're not really, you know, having it like that. But we go the other way. If I slowly swing left, you can see it gets deeper, and as we go out, it just disappears. So we're fishing on like a gradual slope, and as we sort of bounce back up to where we're fishing, you can see there we're on a slope. So a slope's a mega good place to fish. One, because it's a hard bottom. That always needs to be a very nice place to fish. And secondly, it's the depth of water. So a little bit scientific now. We all know, and if you don't know, I'm going to tell you, cold water actually sinks. You know, it's a higher density than warmer water. So what you find in the middle of the lake here, where it's definitely deeper, at the bottom it's going to be quite cold. And as the weather warms up, the fish they start to eat more. They don't want to be sitting in that cold water. Sometimes they might have been in the depth of winter, but certainly in the springtime, you want to be finding shallower water. Like I said, not really shallow in the edge, because you definitely have that clarity issue, but slightly shallow water is where you want to be fishing it. So that's really super important. Before we've even got into any of the fishing, it's picking where you want to fish, because that does make a huge difference. And normally you'll find that is like a slope on the near shelf, the far shelf, something like that. So let's see if I can go in and try and catch another one. Like I said, I don't think that's going to put too much of a dampener on the fishing. Now I'm fishing soft expanders on the hook, and I've got micros in the pot, and they've softened down as well. We'll do a lovely little section on baits so you can see what I'm doing. But all I'm doing for the first few casts is I want those fish to know the pellets are going in. So I've got a sprinkle pot on. Again, I'll show you that when we go for the rig. And I'm just sprinkling those pellets in, and I leave a few in the pot so I can actually get like a double feed out of it. So if I don't get a bite within a minute or so, I can tap them in again. Now it's very often, and we probably will in this session, that I won't be able to do that for too long, because one thing that tapping pellets in is amazing for attracting fish. And when you've got a little bit of water clarity still left coming out of the winter, it's mega to have bait falling through the water. It's the most attractive thing. Bit of noise, bit of movement really does make a big difference. But one thing you'll find is as your session goes on, and as these fish really are switching on to pellet, you can attract too many fish. And if you start getting some funny bites and foul hookers and stuff like that, you need to think about feeding your swim in a completely different way, which hopefully is going to happen in today's session because I can show you what I mean. But to start of the session, what I'm doing now is perfect. So find yourself some slightly shallow water, not really in the real deep in the middle of the lake, and there we go, we've got a bite. That didn't take too long, did it? After that disturbance of the plumbing up. And yeah, tap your pellets in. That makes a real difference. I think micros are the pellets to use, but like I said, I'm gonna cover that all in a complete bait section, because there's also some wicked little hook bait tips that I can show you about having your hook bait being the most attractive thing in the peg. Happens a lot with carp anglers. You know, they always like to real flavour the hook bait up in a different colour and stuff like that. So we've got all of that to look forward to. Just let that train go past. But there we go, that's another F1. A little bit of a disturbance of plumbing up, didn't make a huge difference. So let's perhaps see if I can go in and catch another one while I'm talking to you, all in live time, because you can just see exactly what I'm on about. Now, I think it's going to take a few casts until it goes a little bit iffy. In what I mean iffy is we start to get a few odd bites, a few foul hookers, because how we're feeding the pellets. So a little sprinkle pot in. I'm only putting in, I'm not putting a lot in, quarter of a pot, half a pot. Like I said, we're definitely not into the realms of really going for it, but there is a lot of fish in this venue, and I am the only one here today, midweek, so we're pretty happy with that. So as we're fishing down a slope, also quite important, I flick my rig down the slope, so it's going to be swinging in, and then we can tap those pellets in. Again, I'll leave a few in the pot, so if we need to refeed, then we just hold it so everything straightens up. That hook bait's swinging in, it's going to rest onto the shelf, we can lower it, and we are fishing. So let's see, that's sitting a little bit up. That might have just popped up the shelf. That's a good thing about fishing on the shelf, is if your bristle's not sitting perfectly, probably what's happened is your rig's just crept up the shelf a bit too much and you're not sitting how you should be. And you can tell that because my bristle now sits a little bit lower and we're fishing again. So there's quite a few F1s in here, some big carp in here. There's a real mixture. Beauty about it is you don't know what's going to happen when your float goes under. But basically, in essence, if you're not getting weird bites and you're just cleanly catching them, then don't change anything. Keep tapping the pellets in, get your attractive hook bait, and you can have a real good day. I love it. I love, you know, I've been a bit more confident. Fishing pellets, they're so easy. You know, other baits can be complicated. One thing about pellets, soft or hard pellets, they're just not complicated, and everything eats them. They absolutely love them. So because we haven't had a bite really quickly, like I said, I leave a few more pellets in my pot. You can just lift your rig out and you can just tap a few more in. So you're almost getting like 2 bites of the cherry per feed. You could do it 3 or 4 times if you want, but it's all about making that noise. They've now heard them go in. They're definitely, if there's fish there, they'll be able to see them going down, and you quite often find that you get a bite as the pellets sort of get towards the bottom and they settle. I don't lift and drop too much. I try and make more of the movement in the bait that I'm feeding rather than my hook bait. Every now and again I'll put a lift and drop into it, but it's a nicely set trap on a slope, so you want to leave it there and fish it all nice and tight and ready for something that comes in. We've got to remember we are still just coming out of that winter period, so although we had a little line in there, although we are switching over to pellets and I missed a bite. Switching over to pellets and we are thinking it's, you know, we're being a bit more confident with it. We have got to remember that these fish themselves, they are just waking up. They're eating more bait, and like I said, pellets are the one, but they're not really going for it. I'm just going to try and do that again. I'm going to put less in this time. I'm just going to have 1 feed's worth. Just be nice to see if you can catch them, because the whole thing about it is reading what's happening in your swim. So I got that bite relatively soon after tapping a few pellets in. So it's definitely the fact that they come into the attraction. And you've got to remember the micro pellets, I'm fishing about 4 foot of water. They're 3.5, 4 foot of water. So they are taking a few seconds to hit the bottom. You know, they're not getting down straight away. So we had a little bit of a liner and then we had a bite. So if that continues, we will definitely change the way we're fishing. But I don't think it will. I think we're going to get a few clean bites to start with, and then they may get a bit funny. When there's a few more fish in there and it's really competition there, that's when it can get a bit odd. There we go, that's better. Just a little bit of patience, and they come to that noise, and yeah, that's basically the way to do it. If you can keep yourself in contact with the fish, clean bites, right in the top lip, you know that you've got it right and there's no need to change. Oh, the hook comes out in the net, that one. Only a little one. Hopefully we're going to catch some bigger carp today, but F1's notoriously hard to catch, and although it's still cold in my hand, it's not like a block of ice like they have been the last few visits that I've been filming. So yeah, chuffed for me, it's just nice coming out in a bit warmer weather. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to see if I can catch a few now, see if I can really get this swim going, and then when it changes to the point of I'm getting a few sort of weird bites or something changes, then I'll let you know. But I think we can put a nice run of the fish together for a few minutes. I'm going to enjoy this sunshine, I'm going to enjoy catching a few fish, and like I said, we're going to come back when things have changed slightly about the next steps, and we'll have a look at the rigs and stuff like that as well. So tap those pellets in, let your rig all settle nicely, and it's not going to be too long until we catch another one. Everything is just working absolutely perfect at the moment, and trust me, you can't always say that. Fishing doesn't always go exactly to plan, but I've literally got no reason to change anything. It sounds odd. Oh look, I've got a different species as well, the first eye of the session. I love these fish, but it sounds odd. I was kind of hoping it would go a bit funny and a bit weird so I could sort of show you how to deal with it, but at the moment it's just not. These are, I just absolutely love-eyed. Quite a lot of them in here actually, but normally you find that these are like shallow feeding with maggots, but showing that, you know, even those are going on the bottom eating pellets, just the effect of them as that water warms up. But what I'll do is I'll take a couple of moments out just to talk you through the rig and everything like that, just so we can showcase the importance of a few things. So now we've already touched on the feeding, but having a sprinkle pot lid for certainly the start of the session is absolutely paramount, just to get that falling through the water, making your noise. I have changed the amount I'm feeding, which I'll touch on in a moment, but yeah, so a lid that you can, just a sprinkle pot, I can pop that off, which we will do later when it goes a bit funny, if it goes a bit funny. Like I said, it's not at the moment. We've got orange slick, again, you just, elastic wise, you just have to match to whatever size fish you're fishing for. This literally works for an array of fish, so smaller F1s, small carp, big carp, everything will eat soft pellet sort of this time of year. Then we come on to the rig. We've got 014 main line, fairly light, fairly balanced, because you know we're still not in the real realms of really bagging up and catching loads, so you got to be a bit careful with your rigs. 2 back shot above my float. I use back shot on all of my fishing. If you've watched any of my videos, you'll know exactly why, but it just keeps my rig nice and stable. Now, float wise, I've gone for a stubby slim in 0.3 gram. Like I said, it's only about 3 foot. That's probably bordering on sort of the heavier side. I might use a 0.2 gram if I was in a real competitive match situation. The fishing was a little bit harder, but that's just making it nice and stable. I've got a couple of trimming shot underneath, and we come down to the shotting pattern, the same as what I use in 90% of my fishing, certainly when fishing on the bottom, is the spread out bulk, with the spaces between the shot getting larger as you get towards the hook end. So it creates a nice slow fall and a little curve in your rig, and you want that shot to be in about the bottom third of your rig. You could have a bulk and 2 droppers, a bulk and 1 dropper. A lot of people like that shotting pattern, but for me, this is one that just works. Now I've got a 4-inch hook link and a size 16 MXC, what is it, MXC1 I believe, on the hook link. So that's nice and simple. I'm just going to check that is an MXC one. I don't want to give you false information because I use loads of tied hook link. Yeah, MXC one, pre-tied hook link. I use loads of pre-tied hooks, and if you're unsure about how to tie hooks, I think that, you know, pre-tieds now are as good as I can tie them. So unless I'm in a mega massive match situation, I'll use pre-tied 99% of the time. Right, let's have a look at doing it again. Like I said, it's just been absolutely perfect, and we can't always get it like that. We've been lucky, really. So we've got a real super boosted pellet on. We're going to do a separate section in what bait we're using. Now, the one thing I have changed in this pot just here, I've decreased the amount of pellets that I'm feeding. Now, the only reason I've done that is because hopefully we're going to prove it. The bites have been within seconds rather than minutes, so we're going to say like under a minute most of my bites have been. And I didn't really have time for the 2 feeds, so I found that, you know, sometimes there's pellets striking or popping out of the pot when I don't need them to be. So I'm feeding them all in one go now, but just a real small amount, like a quarter of a pot maybe. So swing my rig out, I lower it in, those pellets tap in, and it's just been super clean. All of my bites have been, I think I've missed like 1, maybe 2, and now this is going to be the ultimate curse of the camera because it always is. But I knew that was going to happen. But all of my bites have been super clean in the fact that it just sits there, no liners, nothing like that, and it's just catching one straight away. So let's see if we can do that again. That's probably the 3rd bite I've missed. Maybe if it goes a bit funny, we can talk you through what to do next. But again, I'm just going to repeat it. A few pellets, and that's how quick the bites have been coming. But pretty much every time, it's been a fish on the end. I've had no liners, nothing like that. And like I said, that can be the issue with feeding like this. But while it's not happening, we're going to carry on doing it. So swing the rig out, tap a few pellets in, hold it all nice and tight, and let it swing in that slope. These fish are definitely in this shallow water now. And then we lower it and leave it all nice and tight so it's settled on that slope. Please don't make me look silly again on camera. They always do, but like that little spell where I was just fishing now, it was just quality. Go in, tap your pellets in, clean bite, and you catch one. And then as soon as I start talking to you about saying it's absolutely perfect, things change. But yeah, we're not getting bites instantly, but I've not got a timer on, but they're definitely sort of under a minute. And that's why I've switched from the double feed, like I said to you, because if I was going a couple of minutes without a bite, rather than shipping in and repeating the process, I could just tap a few more pellets in. But I think if you're getting relatively quick bites, then you don't need to do that, and you can just regulate how much you're feeding. You want small amounts. There we go, that's much cleaner. Small amounts of bait, just so you're getting that one bite. You know, I don't want too many more pellets sitting in that swim now, because it can create too many fish. That sounds odd, too many fish, but at the moment, while it's like this, while it's clean, I know I missed that bite live for you there, but carp this time, nice carp as well. This is one to stop fishing, hold up and show you. There we go. Bigger fish sort of maybe starting to come in as we get into the session. Again, bang, hook straight in the top lip, but I'll unhook him in the net. Let's clip that on there. And it's a nice one just to pause fishing for a second and show you a little ghosty. Say little, he's probably creaching into 3.5 pounds maybe. Might even put 4 pound on the clicker if I was in a match, just to be doubly sure I didn't go over my net limits. But cool, it's cool fishing, and like I said, they definitely are in. I can't stress how important that depth of water is, because I would catch in the middle. I'm not going to say I wouldn't, because that's wrong, but certainly finding out where those fish are sitting at what depth is really important. And you could get it wrong to start with. You might go a little bit shallow, you might go a little bit too deep. So I'm not saying that you can go in and you just, wherever you first start, you're going to catch. You might have to try 2 or 3 different lines, and it might be the fact that you have a line to your left in slightly different water and slightly deeper, slightly shallower, something like that. So you can try a few different, but when it's working nicely, there's absolutely no need to. So let's see if we can repeat it again. That was probably one of the longest I've waited for a bite for a while there. So we've only got surprising how many pellets you put in, like a quarter of a pot. But we haven't got a lot. So I'm, again, tapping them in from a height. I want them to hear him going in. I want them to see them falling in. And if we don't get any odd scenarios where we're getting loads of liners, loads of missed bites, then we won't change it. But if it does carry on and it's just one of those freak days where everything's just not going to change and not going to get loads of fish and making a bad situation, then I'll just do it with pretending, you know, I'll just change the feeding to show you what to do if that situation does happen. Wind's just picked up slightly, but bites have been really, really delicate as well. You can probably see I've got my bristle dotted fairly low. There's another one. Sometimes when we're filming, I don't dot it right down because it's hard to see on camera. You know, what I can see to my naked eye is a lot different to being able to film and show it on camera. So, but it is important when you are fishing like this, until, you know, the real heights of summer where they're just sailing you float away, just to have it nicely dotted, make sure you can see everything that's going on. But yeah, it's super clean, isn't it? That, I know we had missed that one bite, but apart from that, it's just absolutely perfect. So we're going to carry on fishing like this, see if we can catch a few more, and then we're going to have a look at the bait, and we'll perhaps change that feeding regardless of the situation of how the fishing's going. Well, the fishing's still absolutely amazing, but I'm just going to take a few minutes out to talk you through the bait, because it is really important. There's definitely something I think you can do to make most of it, just to try and be a little bit different. And some of this comes from my carp fishing as well. So I'm going to show you what I do, how I do it, and go into a bit of detail, because if you're watching this for a pellet video, then obviously you want to know about the pellets and how we look after them. So first of all, the pellets that I feed, now we're talking about micro pellets here, it's that time of year, we're not quite into the 4s and the 6 mils, so really over wetted micros. These are the F1 Sweet from Dynamite, they're my absolute favourite pellet. And to prepare those, I literally put some into a tub, which I've got here, completely covered in water, like over pellet level, and then just leave them, literally leave them while you're setting up, and then they'll just come to like this. They're like over wetted, heavy pellets. And you know, they're too wet to go around a method feed or anything like that, but they sink really well and they stay in one place, which is important to what I want them to feed. Don't want them wafting around too much, just make them a little bit heavier is a really good idea. So then we come on to expander pellets and flavouring. Now I've got a tub here of expanders done, but what I want to show you is how I do my expanders, because I do them slightly different to what I know other people do, and I find them really good for staying on the hook, really attractive, and I want to share it with you. So I have done a video on this before, but rather than sending you to a link to another video, I may as well do it in the video that you're watching. So matching the flavour, F1 Sweet Pro Expanders in 4mm. I take myself a handful of those. Now these pellets, and same with a lot of pellets, they say you should pump them, but I actually don't. What I do is I just put, you know, I'm only doing a tiny bit here, this is literally for demonstration purposes. I just put a tiny bit, and what you want to do is you want to put them in a corner of a bag. So I do this the night before I go fishing. When you come fishing, they're really, really perfect. And then into that bag, add a tiny, tiny little bit of water. It's probably a little bit too much there for the amount of pellets. And then you want some, I'm going to add a few more pellets just because there's a bit too much water there. But what you want now is to try and make them a little bit better for you and a little bit more sticky. You want some sticky pellet syrup. Now, I'm just going to grab, what have we got? The first one I've got in my tub. This one is betaine green. Now, this is purely, like I said, demonstration purpose. The actual one I used was the F1 Sweet to match the flavour. But more importantly, what it is the sticky pellet syrup. So a good glug of that. And that's really like, it's not gelatine, but it gives it that sort of effect. It just makes them a lot more sticky and a lot more sort of workable. They don't come off the hook all the time when you're shipping out and stuff, which I know a lot of people have problem with expanders. Now what you need to do is you need to cram them right into the corner of the bag, really tight, so all that water and all the pellets are in there. Give it a twist so it doesn't unlock itself, and then just tie and knotting it. So rather than pumping them, what happens now is overnight, while you're asleep and you're thinking about your next match win, they sit there in there, and as they expand, they get really tight in the bag, and that pushes the water into them and that sticky liquid. So when you get them out the bag, they're ready to go and they sink perfectly, and they're absolutely spot on. So no need to pump them, even if your pellets say that they do. I don't bother. That's how I do them. Now we take it to the next level. So I'd leave them overnight, and you'd come out with, I just got a few in this tub, basically just perfect expander pellets. Now you could use those on the hook. They've got a bit of flavour in there from the liquid you've already added, but this is where I think you want to make your hook bait the most attractive in the peg. So I have three. I have my standard ones, and then I have some flavours and some colours. So you can see here I've got three. Now doing this, I can have a different hook bait to anything else in the swim. So what quite often you see when people are carp fishing, they'll have a bright hook bait like a yellow pop-up in amongst sort of like some pellets and stuff, and it's the colour and the attraction they're going to. So having your hook bait the most attractive thing is really sort of important at times. Sometimes the standard pellets will work, other times you want a little bit of flavour and attraction. That's what I've been using today. I switched between the red and the yellow one, and how I do those is, these are actually relatively new from Dynamite. They've brought out flavour enhancement shots, but they're also colourant as well, so they're colour and flavour enhancers. So let's say I was going to do these are my pellets. I'd split some of them up, so I've got some normal ones. I'd give them a tiny little squirt of them, and you literally don't need hardly anything. Shake those around. Now this is the yellow one, so you can already see they're going much more yellow. This is the F1 Sweet, the same flavour as the pellet, so you can keep everything the same, or you can mix and match. You can get as creative as you want with that. And then they do a shake and catch, which is like a real flavoursome powder. I just shake a little bit of that on them, and that creates like a little dusting, a little coating, should we say, on your pellets. And it's all about just putting the extra 1 or 2% in your favour. Can you make your hook bait the best hook bait that's in there? Can you make them eat that first? And if anything's shown on like underwater and stuff like that, when you watch fish eat a method feeder, quite often a little yellow one or a pink one, something like that, is the first thing they eat. So why not put that into your pole fishing and make your expanders the most appealing thing in your peg? That's what I think anyway. So that's how to prepare them. It's actually nice and simple, and you look how little I used there. You know, that's going to last me seasons, literally seasons. They do different flavours. The red one is done from red krill. That will probably come more into my fishing when we get into the summer, but you can see, you know, you need hardly any of it. And if you want to dye, you know, going into late, if you want to dye meat, pellets, anything, ground bait, these do that as well. So just having a couple of flavour shots, it's going to do you wonders throughout the season, to be honest. But the next thing I'm going to go through now is, that's the bait. We're going to pretend now, because the fishing's been so good, it doesn't always happen like that. We're going to pretend it's not been that good. And what I mean by that is tapping the pellets in and making constant noise and stuff like that. We're going to say we've attracted too many fish. Some of them start to come off the bottom, intercept them, you're getting weird bites, foul hooking fish, missed bites. What would you do in that situation? So what you'd do is you'd literally take off your little sprinkle lid, and then we change how we feed. So let me just go back out, and almost trying to slow the fishing down really. So to be fair, what I've been catching on the most is these boosted yellow ones. They've been really good. I quite like keeping all the flavours the same sometimes, but difference in here and what we're feeding is exactly the same pellets, but we're just putting them in the pot, give them a tiny little push down. Now we're feeding in a clump, and what I like to call this is like sneaking it in. So rather than tapping those pellets in and possibly creating those fish to come up in the water, I know it's not happened today, and if it doesn't happen, stay with your sprinkler lid, but if it does, go to this. And then most pots nowadays have got holes in the bottom, so you can literally dunk the pot under the water and the pellets just come out. You don't need to tap them or anything, so you need to make no noise. And what you're doing there is what I mean by slowing the peg down. Technically you're not trying to catch slower, but what you're trying to do is you're trying to take out the noise of the pellets going in. It's obviously super, super attractive, and that's why there's so many fish there in the first place. But like I said, certainly as the weather warms up, or if you've got loads of fish that really compete for, you just got a really good day, that constant pitter patter of pellets going in can cause them to come up and feed at different layers, and that's when it gets a bit messy. So to solve that, you just do exactly what I do there, sneak them in, and now you might find you're getting slightly less bites, but if you were missing 1 bite or 2 bites in every 10, then you're wasting time coming in and out. So if you can keep your bites converted to pretty much every bite's a fish, then you're just fishing more effectively. So you're not really trying to slow your fishing down, but what you're trying to do is put the fish where you want them. We're trying to catch them on the bottom here. I've not made the noise of those pellets going in. I'm hopefully going to send them down to find those pellets. They're going to come in. My bait's going to be in amongst it, just like that. And you're going to get a clean bite and you're going to catch them. Now, I know that's been happening. It's the smallest fish of the session. Now, I know that has been happening for us. Look at the size of that. One for the future, we'll call it. A tiny little thing. But it just shows the effectiveness of your rig and stuff. Same bite, really positive. Cool little fish. Sizes and everything on there, buddy. Right. So we'll just do that again. And yeah, basically, you're trying to get exactly what got there, clean bites, and keep fish coming to the net. But you can sometimes, you can switch between the two. So if you had a little flurry of missed bites and fish sort of not behaving, not sitting where you want to catch them, then you can take the sprinkler lid off, feed it like this for a couple of times. Let's do that again. So again, just dunk it. The water flushes in your pot, flushes the pellets out, lift your rig, swings into that shelf, and the only way those fish now know that their pellets are coming in is, one, visually by them going down, and 2, the smell that they're going to create. But what they're not getting is the noise and attraction. So in theory, you should be attracting slightly less fish, but you're putting them where you want them to be. So it is a play around with that. You have to work out what's best. And I wouldn't have changed in the situation that we're in now, because it was so good. Tapping in the pellets was just creating enough interest, but not creating an awful feeding reaction. I think probably on camera you can see that it has slowed down. It's hard to sort of justify in a few minutes that I've been fishing, but they are still clean bites and we're catching them. But I think with a sprinkle pot on, they were just coming a little bit quicker to that bait. So if it was in a match situation for me now, I would be putting the lid back on and I'd be carrying on, and I'd only take it off if I felt I needed to make things a little bit neater. Should we try it? Should we try it live? It'd be risky because they might prove me wrong, but let's give it one go before we head off, because we've pretty much covered most of the stuff that it's involved in pellet fishing in this time of the year. Like I said, it evolves all the way throughout there, so you just snap your lid back on, and pellet fishing certainly does evolve throughout the year. We're not going to be too far away from fishing in really shallow water, fishing shallow with hard pellets and stuff like that. So all that excitement to come, but just a few pellets in a sprinkle lid this time. This is where they make me look absolutely stupid and we don't catch one at all, or we miss a bite. Absolute classic. Right, swing my rig out. Now from a little bit of a height, make some noise, pitter patter in. So they've got noise of those pellets going in, and the visual of them falling through the water, and the smell. Almost 3 attractions, one more attraction than sneaking them in. And what you hope is that's just rung that dinner bell a little bit quicker for you. It's a really nice way of fishing. Oh, typical. I knew it was going to happen. We missed a bite as soon as we'd done it. But that might be now that the peg's changing. It might be that there is a few more fish there. And as you saw, when we clumped the pellets and when we snuck the pellets in, we definitely didn't miss a bite. We got straight down to the bottom and we hooked 2 out of 2. First time we sprinkled them in, we missed one. But did you see how much quicker that bite was? So I don't mind it too much. If I was missing absolutely loads, I'd go back to just the standard dropping them in. But we had a real run before we were talking to you about the baits and everything like that. We had a real run. We just weren't missing bites. I think that's only like it's like the 3rd bite I've missed. But that's just proved to me now that maybe things have changed. So that's actually worked out quite well, to be honest, because it's live, it's what's happening, it's reading your peg and understanding what's going on. So in this instance, I'm not actually going to feed, because I think those 2 bites there might have been fish trying to intercept those pellets on the way down and not actually eating my pellet. So feed a little bit less, make a little bit less noise, and again, control those fish to what you want to do. You have to make them feed how you want them to feed, and that's the most important thing in fishing. There you go, didn't feed that time and we got a clean, nice bite. The most important thing in any type of fishing for me is feeding. I think feeding makes, oh, what have we got on here? There's some massive fish in here. I don't know if this is one of them, but I think feeding is what separates the best anglers from the good anglers. Like, there's only so many variables in fishing when you break it down, and feeding, I think, is the thing that makes people better. You know, we've all got relatively similar bait. I know you can boost it, and I've got boosted baits, and everyone will have their own flavors and stuff, but realistically, you know, fishing your peg, oh, I lost it. Fishing your peg will eat anything really within reason. So it's all about just making the feeding the most attractive thing. So I'm not going to feed again. I wanted to end on that one because I think that was going to be a bigger fish. It probably was a bigger fish. I pulled a bit hard when I was talking to you. So again, I'm not actually going to feed. I'm going straight back in. And if we don't catch one this time, maybe there's now too many fish there, and the sprinkle lid was the one that caused the issue, where looking back 15-20 minutes ago, that was the one that was doing all the damage. So it changes so often. That's the best thing about fishing. Nothing works forever, and if you're not getting it right, you should be trying to work out why you're not getting it right. What's happened? Have the fish changed how they're feeding? Have they just gone? Have you caught them all? Do you need to start a new swim? Again, didn't feed anything. Lovely clean bite. So wait for that train to go past. I think what I would do now is I would take the pot off and I'd go like that, and I'd keep switching to try and find out what's better. But that's pretty much all there is to it. Hopefully I've given you as much information as I needed to put across in how to make the most of pellet fishing. Spring is fully here. The weather's warming up. It's absolutely amazing. Whoa, calm down. And we've caught loads of fish on a method that is going to seriously take places apart this time of year. So I hope you've enjoyed that. Don't forget to hit that like button if you have. Drop us a comment if there's anything I haven't made too clear. I'll try and answer it for you. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. But for us now, we're going to head off home.